Have you ever just stopped and really wondered, do we actually have free will? Or is it all kind of mapped out already, predetermined?
It's a huge question, isn't it?
Huh.
Philosophers, scientists, they've been grappling with it for centuries.
Yeah, and it always feels like this tension, our gut feeling of making choices versus, well, the laws of physics, which seems so deterministic.
Exactly, like everything should just follow from what came before.
But maybe that whole way of thinking is, well, maybe it's based on an older picture of how reality works.
That's where this gets really interesting.
Today, we're diving deep into this fantastic article, Physics, Free Will, and an Unfinished Universe. It features Professor Jenann Ismael's work.
And it's not just rehashing the old arguments. She's really reimagining the whole thing, using insights from modern physics.
Right, so our mission here is to unpack that, to see how physics might actually change how we think about free will, maybe even reality itself.
Moving beyond those really rigid kind of black and white debates we always seem to get stuck in.
And the core idea is pretty wild, actually. What if reality isn't finished? What if it's not like a movie playing out, but something still being created?
That one idea changes everything for free will, potentially.
Okay, so let's start with the old view. The classical picture, Laplace's demon, right?
Right. The idea of this super intelligence
Yeah, knowing everything, every particle's position and momentum.
could then predict the entire future, and the entire past, for that matter.
It basically paints a picture where everything is locked in. Every choice you think you're making, every event. It was always going to happen that way.
Predetermined from the Big Bang, essentially. A block universe.
Feels a bit bleak, doesn't it?
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is where Professor Ismael comes in and says, hang on. Reality isn't a completed structure.
Okay.
And crucially, she argues, this isn't just because we don't have good enough tools or enough data. It's, and this is the key quote, because of the logical structure of the universe itself.
So it's baked into the rules. Like, you fundamentally can't have that kind of complete picture.
Exactly. It's not just difficult. It's logically impossible, according to her interpretation of physics.
All right, let's unpack that. How does physics, you mentioned relativity earlier, how does that actually challenge this deterministic picture?
Well, relativity gives us the concept of the past light cone. That's basically all the information from the past that could possibly have reached an observer at a certain point.
Okay, the information horizon, sort of?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
And the crucial point is that information is never complete enough to perfectly predict a future event, especially an event involving the observer themselves.
Because you can't get information from outside your light cone.
Right. But Ismael takes it further. It's not just a practical limit. It leads to what she calls logical indeterminacy, a fundamental fuzziness, a necessary openness in the system's future states.
Logical indeterminacy. So it's not just that we can't predict it. The universe itself hasn't fully determined it yet.
That's the idea. And she says this is what opens the door for free will. It's this inherent logical gap. She even has this neat little demonstration. She says, basically, ask any system to predict its own next output, it will fail.
Why?
Not because of missing data, but because it's logically impossible. Think about trying to write down a complete description of yourself, including the description you are currently writing. You run into a self-referential loop.
Ah, okay. Like a paradox.
Exactly. It directly kicks Laplace's demon out the window. The universe's rules, especially when systems are predicting themselves, just don't allow for that kind of perfect foresight from within.
Wow, okay. So physics itself prevents this total prediction baking in possibility. But hang on, if the universe is that open, that unpredictable, wouldn't that just be chaos? How could anything complex like life even get started or survive?
That's the intuitive reaction, right?
Yeah.
Chaos seems bad for structure.
Yeah, seems like it would make evolution impossible.
But here's the brilliant flip from Ismael. She argues organisms didn't just struggle against this indeterminacy, they evolved to exploit it.
Exploit it.
The unpredictability itself became an advantage. Think about it. An environment that isn't perfectly predictable forces organisms to be adaptable, to learn, to make choices based on incomplete information.
So instead of being crushed by uncertainty, life learned to dance with it.
Beautifully put, yeah.
Yeah.
Living beings learn to operate and make choices within this openness. It creates this dynamic feedback loop between the organism's internal state and the possibilities of the environment.
That makes sense. Adapting to catch prey that zigs when you expect it to zag, that sort of thing.
Precisely.
Okay, that's fascinating. Life thrives because of the openness. But then, What about us? Where does our individual sense of self, our consciousness, fit into this picture?
This is where it gets into information theory. Ismael suggests thinking of a conscious being, like you, as a self-curating information pattern.
An information pattern, like software running on hardware. Is that too simple?
Maybe a little, but it gets at the core idea. It's your unique collection of beliefs,
Yeah.
memories, ways of processing information, your history of choices. All of that constitutes you. And this pattern is constantly updating, self-curating, based on new inputs and internal processing. And crucially, she argues, when this specific complex pattern dissolves at death, it's gone, never to be reproduced.
So identity isn't some separate soul substance, it is the pattern.
Yes, rooted in information theory. It echoes thinkers like, Norbert Wiener or Claude Shannon, who saw information as fundamental. Your identity is the unique organization and flow of information that is you.
Right. Okay, I can sort of picture that. A unique, dynamic information flow. And if reality isn't a static block, like we said, how does that connect to how we experience time? It really does feel like it's flowing, like it's coming into being now.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like we're just uncovering a pre-existing timeline.
Not at all.
And Ismael connects this feeling directly to thermodynamics. The arrow of time, why it causes precede effects, it's grounded in entropy increase.
The tendency towards disorder.
Exactly. Time isn't some abstract dimension we're moving through. It's felt as emergent, as the consequence of the universe constantly unfolding, changing, generally becoming more statistically probable, which usually means more disordered.
So our feeling of time passing reflects a real physical process of the universe unfolding.
That's the argument. It's not an illusion. It's tied to fundamental physics.
And she connects this to some really personal reflections, doesn't she? Mentioning her own dark nights of the soul.
Yes, she does. And she uses that wonderful line from William James, something like, "The scales of fate hang in the balance, and it all comes down to the here and now."
That really captures the feeling of a big decision, doesn't it? That sense of pivotal importance.
Absolutely. And for Ismael, that phenomenology, that inner feeling, the subjective experience of making a crucial choice, that's not something to be dismissed as illusion.
It's data.
In a way, yes. It demonstrates how we navigate open futures with intentionality. Those moments feel real and important because, in this unfinished universe view, they are real and important. They are moments where our informational pattern actively shapes what comes next.
Okay. But if these experiences are so deeply subjective, so personal, how does language handle that? It often feels like words fail when you try to describe those really intense moments of choice or feeling.
That's a great point, and she addresses it directly. Language has to be shared, right? It's intersubjective. To be useful between people, it must detach from personal experiences to some degree.
It has to be general enough for everyone to understand.
Exactly. It works like a map, a shared representation. But like any map, it leaves things out. It often fails to capture the deeply subjective nature of pivotal experiences, the raw feeling of it.
So there's a limit to what objective language can capture about subjective reality.
Precisely. It's a limitation inherent in trying to objectify the deeply personal, especially within reality that's still unfolding.
And it seems this appreciation for mystery, for what language can't capture, feeds into her whole philosophy of discovery. She talks about being magnetized by deep mysteries.
Yes, and drawn to confusion and contradiction, not running away from them.
Which is kind of counterintuitive for a scientist or philosopher, maybe. Aren't you supposed to seek clarity?
Well, yes, eventually. But she makes this brilliant point, advice she gives students. The best contributions don't come from the smartest people, necessarily,
Okay.
but from those most patient with confusion. People who can sit with a problem, turn it over, tolerate the ambiguity without rushing to a simple answer.
So embrace the confusion.
Gravitate toward what bewilders you, she says, because it's often in that bewildering space where the old answers don't fit that real innovation happens.
That makes a lot of sense. Don't just look for variations of theory A, but be willing to explore not A.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Approach problems from completely different angles. Be willing to question the foundations. That patience, that openness to being confused is maybe more important than sheer processing power.
That's really powerful advice, actually, for anyone, not just academics.
It really is. Which, leads to a question for everyone listening. How do you react when you hit something complex, something baffling? Do you lean into that confusion or shy away?
Something to think about. This whole perspective from Ismael, it really shifts things, doesn't it? Free will isn't this illusion we need to get rid of.
No, it's redefined.
Yeah.
It emerges naturally within this unfinished cosmos, this physics-informed view where reality is still coming into being.
Our decisions aren't just echoes of the past. They're actually participating in creating the future. Literally help shape the next moments of reality.
It's less like watching a movie that's already been filmed and more like maybe improvisational theater. We're all contributing to the unfolding scene.
Yeah, I like that. We're writing the script as we go.
So the final thought to leave you with is this. What does it really mean if your choices, your decisions, aren't just responses to a fixed reality, but are active ingredients in cooking up what happens next?
How does that change how you look at the next decision you make? Big or small? Does it feel different?
Does it give those moments more weight, perhaps? Or maybe more freedom?
Definitely something to mull over.